just a word, and suddenly I'm not afraid, 'cause you speak and freedom reigns. There is hope in every single word you say, and I don't want to miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. And I don't want to miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart, I'm listening.
When sorrows roll and troubles rage, you whisper peace. When I don't have the words to say, I won't lose hope. When storms won't break, you keep your word. And your promises will keep me safe.
I don't want to miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. And I don't want to miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart, I'm listening.
Your ways are higher. You know just what I need. I trust you, Jesus. You see what I cannot see. Your ways are higher. You know just what I need.
I trust you, Jesus.
You see what I cannot see.
Oh, I don't want to miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. Oh, and I don't want to miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart, I'm listening. Oh, and I don't want to miss one word you speak, 'cause everything you say is life to me. And I don't want to miss one word you speak. So quiet my heart, I'm listening.
Towards God, from our hearts, we cry out, I don't want to miss one word you speak, because everything you say is life to me. I don't want to miss one word you speak. Quiet my heart. I'm listening. And everyone agrees. Even the skeptic, even the searcher, the one who wants to believe in God but isn't quite sure about God, would acknowledge that if God is real, you would want to hear God speak. Why? Because if there are words from God, then by definition, they're really important. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to miss any of them. But let's at least acknowledge that hearing God's words to us is challenging, because God isn't speaking audibly. I don't have his number in my contact list. He's not texting me. So it's at least understandable that we might not always hear his voice, or at least not hear it well. On the other hand, people around you, people you interact with and who interact with you, people who, like you, were made in the image of God, they're also communicating, and they are speaking real words, traveling with sound waves in hearable frequencies from their mouth to your ears, interpreted in the temporal lobe of your brain into something meaningful. That person who you love, is speaking the same language that you speak. And while we might all think that we have the same sentiment in our hearts towards those around us that we just sang about towards God, a sentiment that says, I don't want to miss one word that you speak, I'm listening. The truth is that we aren't always listening, that is. And it's not because we don't care, and it's not because we don't try. I'm convinced that it's because we don't know how to listen. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I'm trying to help you. Because I've now had, I don't know how many conversations with thousands of people in the course of my ministry, and I'm convinced that this is the single greatest threat to our relationships. And therefore, it's a major impediment to living the best lives we could live. We love the people around us, and I believe that deep inside of us is a desire to love them well. But if the people we say we love don't feel understood, then they don't feel loved. Listening is the key to understanding, and understanding is the key to them feeling loved. And we're not the first people to have this problem, although I think we could argue that we've taken it to a new and chronic level. But it's been going on for a long time, this listening issue. James, the brother of Jesus, he said it like this. He said, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. When James says, take note of this, what he's saying is, hey, pay attention. This is really important. Take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. Why does James, the brother of Jesus, have to admonish us this way? Because the hard truth is, we don't listen well. When he says quick to listen, he's not just saying jump to it, he's saying listen well. And if we're honest, most of us, if we're really being honest about this, most of us, we prefer to talk. We prefer to share what we think, what we feel, the way that we see things. And in a world where we post our problems and we tweet our frustrations, now more than ever before, everyone is talking, but no one is listening. And we want to have a filter. We've created a filter. The algorithms create a filter so that we hear only what reinforces what we want to hear, which just elevates the problem and makes it worse. And so part of the problem is that many people think that they're listening. They might even look like they're listening, but they're not really listening. It's like these T-Mobile commercials. Maybe you've seen a few of them where there are several of these out there now where they give two versions of the same conversation. They're trying to illustrate like what happens when a network fails. The first version of the conversation is what the person speaking actually says. And then there's the second version when the network doesn't operate correctly, and it's what the person actually hears. And they're really funny, and it's good marketing. I wanted to show you one that was particularly relevant because of our conversation today, but also because of something that happened this week. This commercial was from a year ago. Anyway, check it out.
Bronk,
What up, TB?
what do you think my next move should be? Give it to me straight. Maybe it's just time I hang him up.
I got one word for you. Retirement. If you retire now, you're gonna be walking on soft sand in a week.
Just come to Florida and
Feel the wind in your hair. Retirement is like winning another
another one.
Maybe I'll even join you.
On the Spotty Network, this is what Tom heard.
If you retire now, you're soft and weak.
Just come to Florida and win another one.
Maybe I'll even join you.
Just go win another one.
Like it's that easy, Gronk. Maybe it is. I still feel like I have a lot to accomplish.
My goal is to win one more.
And Gronk's coming with me.
I'm retired from retiring?
Mom, where are my football pants?
Don't trust big decisions to just any network. Go with T-Mobile, the GO in 5G.
And I'm not soft or weak either.
Of course, if you're not a Tom Brady fan or you're not a football person, that won't mean much. But that commercial happened more than a year ago. And this week, Brady actually did retire for real this time. But the comedy illustrates a reality that isn't funny, that the person you're hearing is often saying something other than what you're hearing. James tells us that we should be quick to listen, not look like we're listening or pretend like we're listening, but quick to actually listen. How do we do that? I want to help you unpack it today, because if we'll really learn how to really listen, then we'll find our relationship doors and opportunities open up to us that we never even knew existed. And I'm convinced that many people never actually discover this. So let me help you with this today. First, real listening is undivided, undistracted attention. Real listening is undivided, undistracted attention. Watch most people, and you'll see that we have become a society, when it comes to listening, that is defined by attention deficit disorder. We're completely, constantly distracted. And we did this to ourselves. We've lost the skill of being able to sit with somebody face to face and actually focus on them. Our hands are wandering, our eyes are wandering, our thoughts are wandering. While we're on the phone with someone, pretending to listen, we're simultaneously doing other things. We're perusing Facebook. We're having multiple chats at the same time. When we play games with our kids, we're doing other things when it's not our turn. We become distracted all the time in every situation, and especially when somebody's trying to talk to us. Sometimes we even get busted. I was on the phone one time, this has been a few years ago now, but it's still a painful memory. One of my most embarrassing, and if I'm honest, most shameful moments. Someone was talking to me on the phone about a life struggle they were having, and they needed somebody to listen, they needed somebody to care and to understand where they are and help them connect with God through their trial. And that's what I do. I mean, that's my calling. That's my job. But hey, I was on the phone. This wasn't a Zoom call, and it wasn't FaceTime. They couldn't see me. And I mean, my emails were piling up. So I had an idea. I'll just pull up my inbox and see if I can eliminate some of the easy ones that don't take a lot of thought while that person was talking to me. I can do both, right? So I put her on speaker, and I put my microphone on my phone on mute so she wouldn't hear me typing. And I thought that I put one ear on that conversation with her and the other ear on my emails, but it turns out I'm not nearly as smart as I think I am. Now, somewhere in my genius multitasking idea, the genius vanished. And that's when I heard her question from the phone. So, Pastor Brian, she said, I really want to know what you think. Which of these two options would you choose if you were in my shoes? I don't know how long I had checked out, but I did know that I had no idea what she was talking about. I hadn't heard her because I wasn't listening to her, because I was not giving her my undivided, undistracted attention, the kind of attention that she deserved. And we do this all the time, don't we? Even when we're sitting in front of somebody who's pouring their hearts out or just trying to share with us about their day, our minds are often somewhere else. And studies are starting to show the effects of this epic lack of focus on our brains. A Stanford University article put it this way. It said, attention multitaskers, your brain may be in trouble. The researchers originally set out to discover what gave multitaskers their special focus. But instead, they were surprised to discover that in many ways, multitasking actually impairs performance. So while many people think that they're really effective at juggling multiple tasks, they're actually pretty lousy at it. And no, you're not the exception. According to one of the researchers, everything distracts them. Multitaskers underperformed in almost every area of the study. The article based on the study concluded with some advice. It said, by doing less, you actually accomplish more. For me, translating this into our conversation today, I am 100% positive that this is true when it comes to listening. Someone once said, distraction is to conversation what water is to fire. I would say distraction is to listening what water is to fire. Because listening is not passive. It's not unproductive time. Instead, it's active. It's all in. It's full engagement. And yet, few of us actually listen in a fully engaged way. And I know this is a struggle. It is for me too. Because the truth is, so much is coming at us, right? So much is vying for our attention all the time, at the same time. But the first rule of listening is that you've got to be present. You've got to have this undivided, undistracted attention to the person who's talking. In fact, the deepest message of caring you can give to someone is to really listen to them. So if you want to be quick to listen, especially when someone wants to talk with you, which ought to be an honor, right? Then you have to do something respectfully, I offer. You have to do something about your phone. You got to turn it off or put it on silent or leave it in the other room. We all know what it's like, right? To be standing there, you're talking to somebody and their phone goes off and they just instinctively grab the thing, no matter what you're saying. And you might keep talking because you don't know what else to do, but they quit listening and you know it. Or maybe you're the one that does that. Regardless, can I tell you the message that it sends? If you're standing there talking to me and in the middle of it, my phone goes off and I just grab it and look at it, do you know the message I'm sending to you is that you're just not that important. I don't even know who's texting or trying to get my attention, but I'm still checked out with you so I can check in with, well, I'm not even sure whoever they are, but whoever they are, they're more important. And I fall into this trap too, and I'm ashamed of it. Because if I was talking to you, if I was sharing something about me, if I was looking at you and fully engaged when I was speaking to you, would you just get up right there, turn around, and walk out of the room while I was in mid-sentence? Of course you wouldn't. We would all consider that rude and disrespectful. But that's exactly what we do all the time. When we grab our device in the middle of somebody else's sentence. No, I want the person that I'm talking to know that they have my undivided attention, that I'm listening to them actively. And let me just say a word about this addiction we have to our devices. The world will not come to an end with 1 hour of you checking out from it. Trust me. And one more note about this. We seem to have an easier time, for some reason, snubbing the people that we are supposed to love the most. But shouldn't it be the opposite way? I mean, I want those that I love more than anybody else to get my undivided attention. I often think to myself, there are 7 billion people on the planet, but these people in my life, they want to share their lives with me. Shouldn't I give them what they deserve in terms of my undistracted attention? So give this a shot. I want you to try this now. I want you to take people around you. This is just an experiment. It's a little risky. Take people around you and offer to them the opportunity to put your phone away while you talk to them. And say to them something like, hey, show them, I'm turning this off. I'm setting it in the other room because nobody in the world is more important to me than you are right now. And if you'll share what's going on with you, I really want to listen. Secondly, real listening is a fully engaged quest to understand. It's a fully engaged quest to understand. Most people think listening is you being passive, but it's not. It's a quest. When my daughter, Mary Ashley, was 2 or 3 years old, I can't remember exactly how old she was. She's just a little thing. One day, out of the blue, she says to me, just like this, she says, "It's a looply." It's a looply. And I thought, what in the world is a looply? So I asked her, because she was starting to be able to talk, little girl, hey, sweet girl, what's a looply? And she said, it's a looply. So back and forth we went. We were kind of getting nowhere in this. I got Susan involved, and she couldn't figure it out. So we started pointing at things like, is that a looply? Is that what you're talking about? How about that? Is that a looply? And we opened up picture books, and we started pointing into picture books. And finally, we bring the grandparents and other friends in, and everybody is trying to figure out what is a looply. Mary Ashley knew what she was trying to say, but none of us could figure it out. And this went on for months. I kid you not. It went on for so long, it implanted an image in my mind for so long that here we are 30 years later still talking about it. Anyway, one day, months into this, there was this cartoon on TV that we had on tape. And yes, it was VHS tape back then. Anyway, and it was this show she had seen, many times. And I happened to be in the room, and there was my little girl, eyes wide open, glued to the screen, smile on her face. And the character in the show shouted, absolutely. And I turned and I saw her pointing at the screen and jumping up and down and looking at me as she proudly yelled, it's a looply, it's a looply. And I've thought about that a lot over the years, all the energy we put into trying to understand what she was trying to say. All that energy, I don't think I've ever put that much energy into trying to understand what anyone else has ever tried to say to me since then. What a shame. Because when James says that we're supposed to be quick to listen and slow to speak, most people assume that as long as you're not saying anything, as long as you're nodding your head, as long as you're occasionally making some affirming sound, a grunt or an something like that, well, then you must be listening. But real listening is not simply not talking. Real listening is a quest. It's a treasure hunt because there's a treasure inside of the one who is talking. And if you can understand them, you'll know them as a person better than you did before. They are the treasure. And real listening then listens with your eyes as much as it does with your ears. It looks for all the nonverbal cues that a person gives without knowing that they're giving that when they talk. We all do this. You can see discouragement in shoulders that sag and heads that hang low. You can sense excitement in hands that flail and legs that won't be still. You can feel anxiety because it weighs heavily in the room. You can interpret anger, distance, and apathy, and hope, and fear, and pain, and loss, and loneliness, dread, and defiance, shame, and shock, and a million other emotions without ever hearing the words. Like I did with my daughter for months. If we're going to follow James's instruction, if we're going to be quick to listen, we have to be determined to be all in on understanding the people who are trying to tell us something instead of giving up or worse, lecturing them into our way of thinking. So here's an experiment you ought to consider doing. You can do this with anybody. You can do this with your child or your parent, your spouse, your friend, your coworker. You could ask this question. Do you feel like I understand you? Do you feel like I understand you? Now, if you've never asked this question before, be prepared for the person you're talking to stare at you and wonder, if you're dying or if you are having some kind of allergic reaction. But after they get over the shock, let me just encourage you, give it a shot, really. Because I used to do a lot of counseling, not so much these days, but when I would meet with a couple, I would often sit down and I would listen to them talk, and he would rant about her and she'd rant about him, and back and forth they'd go, each one vying for their own perspective, nobody listening, they're just volleying back and forth. And then I would often ask, do you think she understands you? And when he said, no, she completely doesn't get me, 9 out of 10 times, she was totally shocked, completely shocked. And the reverse is true too. She says that he doesn't understand her and he's dumbfounded. And the next thing they do is quickly misdiagnose their lack of understanding. They assume that they're just not wired to understand each other. We're just not compatible. She's too stubborn. He's too hard-headed, too much like his mother or her father or whatever. And the misdiagnosis comes from a phenomenon that occurs in every human being. We just don't want to admit it. And here it is. We assume that people say what they mean. We assume that people say what they mean, but we don't. We don't say what we mean. Some of us, maybe more than others, but none of us do this all the time. I was in a meeting not too long ago. This has happened many times. And something was said or done in that meeting. I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. And whatever happened, it bothered me or it frustrated me. Maybe I got a little mad. I don't know. And I didn't say it, but I kind of didn't hide it well, apparently. And someone at the table asked me, "Hey, what's wrong?" And you know what I said, right? Nothing. I mean, it wasn't true. I mean, you've done this too, right? I mean, somebody's asked you what's wrong and you say nothing, but that's not really true. But around here, with people that I'm around, we're really intentional about learning the skill of listening. And so somebody on my team almost always refuses to take my lame, dishonest answer. Instead, knowing that real listening is a fully engaged quest to understand. And because we genuinely care about each other more than we do about the agenda of the day, when this happens, somebody will say to me, you seem anxious. They just name it. They don't evaluate it. It's not an accusation. They're not judging me. They're just helping me see. They're helping flesh out the feeling that's really there. Sometimes Susan will say to me, "You seem grumpy." She'll say it just like that. She's not accusing me. She's just naming what she clearly sees. This is caring about me. It's an attempt to understand where I'm at. Because my words might say one thing. Your words might say one thing. But our body language and facial expression and gestures might indicate something else. And so what we say, we learned this from Stephen Covey, what we say is we listen with our eyes, not just with our ears. And then we reflect feelings, not words. And when we start to do that, we are well on our way to real listening. With your eyes, and then reflecting the perceived feelings in a statement that will either be confirmed by that person, "Yeah, I am anxious," or maybe I'll correct it. "No, I'm not grumpy. I'm more disappointed. Something happened today that bothered me." And on the conversation goes. Instead of taking the first word at its face value, this kind of listening, this kind of what we call empathic listening, seeking first to understand, then to be understood, listening with your eyes, reflecting feelings, not words, that kind of listening is air to breathe. And our lives will be better if we will put this into practice. Now, this is a skill you have to work at. And it's not a game. You can't treat it like it's some means to an end. But when we get good at it, we'll find that our relationships get better and our conversations more constructive and productive. And frankly, we'll get to another place, maybe one we've never experienced in our relationships before. Third, there's more than three. All we have time for today is three. Real listening is an attempt to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Carl Rogers brilliantly said, "To be with another in this way means that for the time being, you lay aside your own views and values in order to enter another's world without prejudice." Stephen Covey says, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." And so sometimes Susan and I will say, when we get to some kind of impasse, which happens with all of us, right? One of us will say, "I feel like we're not listening to each other." And whoever says that, this is how it goes. I feel like we're not listening to each other. I'll go first. I really want to understand where you're coming from. I really want to understand how you see this. And if you'll help me, I'll listen well. To really listen, to be quick to listen, is an attempt for me to come around to your side of the conversation and really feel it the way that you do, instead of just trying to convince you that I'm right. Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the best-selling books of all time, he once described a scene, hypothetical scene, that would illustrate what you and I more often do. He said, I want you to imagine that you go to the eye doctor and you tell her that you can't see well. You're having trouble seeing. And so she nods her head impatiently, and you expect that you're going to climb in the chair and do that vision thing where she says A or B, 1 or 2. But instead, she takes off her glasses and she says, here, put these on. I've been wearing them for years and they've really helped me. And you say, well, this is awful. You put her glasses on, you say, I can't see a thing. That's crazy, she says. They work great for me. Try harder. I am trying, you say. I am trying. Everything is blurry. And the doctor gets frustrated and she says, what's the matter with you? Think positively. I am positive, you say. I'm positive these don't work. And she says, you're just so ungrateful after all that I've done for you. Now, I know you've never had that conversation. No eye doctor would do that. If they did, they wouldn't have any patience. But I bet a bunch of us have had conversations like that. See, a good doctor is one who understands what's happening with their patient before they try to prescribe. In relationships, this is even more important, because understanding and feeling what you feel and coming to your side, that's the key to intimacy. And listening is the key to understanding. And at the end, this is really tied to your spiritual life. Dietrich Bonhoeffer one time said, he who can no longer listen to his brother will soon be no longer listening to God. So everyone wins when we learn to listen well. I've given you more tools on this in the follow-up video that I did for today, because this skill takes some time to learn, and it's hard to learn, and it takes longer in the beginning, and most of us have either given up or just never learned how to do it. So go to the app, go to the website, grab those tools, grab that video, and let's care enough about each other to get better at this. And so I'd like to finish today with a blessing of sorts. May the God who understands us give us the wisdom to understand each other. May the God who wanted to know us give us the desire to know each other. May the God who offers us his undivided attention make us undistracted with each other. And may we become known as people who listen first, speak second, and value each other as treasures that deserve our undistracted attention. Amen.